Black Family Powers, KingLeonX, the Human Liberator. This is episode 71 of Take Charge of Your Life. It's our midday self-mastery, self-motivation series where we make the choice to practice a few simple disciplines on a daily basis to guarantee our success and determine our destiny. I'm rocking with Chris Christ, the most honorable.
Peace and love,
Chris Christ, the peacekeeper. And I'm going to get right to the message today. We're talking about happiness. All right. We're still dealing with the fundamentals. All right. If I say something that resonates with you in this episode, you type make the choice. That's the hashtag. We don't have to practice these few simple disciplines. We choose to, right? Because we can continue the few errors in judgment and never analyze those. We can never investigate what plan we got sold on. We can keep doing what we're doing so we could keep getting what we're getting. But if there's a part of you who might be interested in investigating a few simple disciplines that you could repeat on a daily basis to measurably increase the quality of your life, then this is why we choose to. This is why make the choice is the appropriate hashtag. Each time you type make the choice, it's a spell that we're casting on ourselves. It's a counter spell. And today we're talking about happiness. Yesterday we talked about wealth. Wealth is a study. If you want to be wealthy, you got to study wealth, right? Just like if you want to be a neurosurgeon, you got to study the brain, right? If you want to be a psychologist, you got to study psychology. If you want to be a plumber, you got to study plumbing, right? If you want to be an architect or you want to build houses, you got to study architecture, right? So if you want to be wealthy, you got to study wealth. If you want to be happy, you got to study happiness. If you want the good life, you got to study the art of good living, right? Wealth is a study. Happiness is a study, right? And the best part about it is, like I keep saying, it's only a few simple disciplines that we must practice daily, right? Just to correct our errors in judgment. That's all we have to do is take full accountability for our results, correct our errors in judgment, and practice a few simple disciplines. This is all we have to do. If you could walk around the block, you should walk around the block, and you don't walk around the block for your health, then you might not. You're like, hey, I didn't walk around the block today, and I'm not ill tonight. Or, hey, if they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, what if that's true? Right? They say, hey, I didn't eat an apple today, and I'm not ill tonight. Well, we got to be wiser than that. We got to, like, someday we have to leave first grade, right? The reason that they make the first grade desks so small is so we can't fit in them when we're 25. All right? So the art of living good, the art of living well is what we're investigating, and happiness is the wine that sharpens the taste of the meal. So for probably the next 30 plus episodes on Take Charge of Your Life, we're reading 7 strategies from wealth and happiness. So they're all leaders or readers editions, where you pick up a book, record yourself reading, and then challenge your timeline to do the same. The whole concept of Take Charge of Your Life I received from Jim Rohn, who he received from someone else, probably Earl Schoaf. And without him saying take charge of your life, there would be no series, right? Without me executing on a few simple disciplines, there would be no take charge of your life. And so I'm going to start right here on page 10 in the section of happiness. I'm going to read a paragraph or a section, and then we're going to discuss it. Happiness embraces the universal quest. It's a joy that usually accompanies positive activity. Like wealth, however, it too has a variety of contradictory meanings. It's both the discovery and the joy of knowing. Happiness often accompanies those who are fully aware of the colors, sounds, and the harmony of life. So let's pause right there real quick. Happiness is the joy that usually accompanies positive activity. So when we talking about positive activity and constructive activity, we must realize that the only inactivity is death. right? A breathless body. But even the body is still active. If you was to put a microscope on a body that's breathless, Like, I just came from my uncle's funeral. If it was a body, if they put a microscope on his body, you would see his joint would still be moving. It would be still moving hella fast. It would just be breathless, right? So breath is life, but that doesn't mean that it's inactive. Because if we leave that body there for a week or a month, you will see it continue to move and it would decay. You would see it. You would see it every single day, probably something, or every week you would see a difference, a measurable difference in the activity. So I don't believe that there's a such thing as inactivity, right? It's just whether the activity is constructive and is going to yield us the results that we desire, or is it not? And so he said, happiness is the joy that usually accompanies positive activity. So positive activity makes us feel good. Positive activity is engaging in those things that, even though they might not necessarily, we might not want to do them or feel like doing them now, we're using our willpower and self-discipline to execute those, because of 6 years from now, we'd rather be celebrating than explaining why we're not doing well. We'd rather be celebrating the fruits or reaping the fruits of the seeds. So I might not want to be planting seeds all day and nourishing all these types of things. But I know that when time comes to harvest, I'd rather be reaping the fruits than explaining why I'm not doing well. Right? And so happiness is the joy that you get just from simple positive activity. Positive activity to me means engaging in those things that are going to yield me the type of results that I want. Which is, and those types of things include service. Service to many leads to greatness, to boil it down. Right? So, and then he says it often accompanies those who are fully aware of the color, sounds, and harmony of life. So that means our senses are heightened. That means we feel, because color, sounds, and harmony makes us feel. And so you don't want to be dull or bland. If you've seen that movie, the Trolls movie, the trolls who in the group of the people who didn't have the positive mental attitude and they lived dull, it was just bland. They didn't have any color. Their whole land was just dull. It wasn't vibrant. But then by the end of the movie, they realized that they could have happiness too, if they turn inward, and that they already had happiness, and that they didn't have to eat a troll to have happiness. So then by the time of the movie, when that happiness came into them, the colors changed. They went from being dull to being vibrant, and their true colors were being shown. So that's just an example in I think a Disney movie that also shows happiness being attributed to colors, sounds, and harmony, because the trolls were super colorful and they were singing. They just couldn't stop singing, and it was the songs that inspired, and it was the feeling and the dance and the harmony of just the collective. That's what brought the happiness. And happiness is the joy that comes to those who painstakingly design their lives and live them with artistry. See, that's basically what I was just saying. Happiness is the joy that comes to those who painstakingly. That means it's not easy. That means that it's not going to be the most convenient. Our brain is set up to make us want to do only the most convenient things. But that's not how we grow. Our brain really doesn't care if we live in poverty or destitute. It's going to make you, like, you could literally know what you have to do. And the reason you could do it, you should do it, and you won't do it, or you don't do it, is because your brain would rather you just not do it and chill. Like, your brain is set up for you to just chill and be comfortable. But if you want to grow, if you want to expand, if you want to evolve, then that's where we have a willpower, right? This is where discipline must be established. Which is why they took discipline out of the schools and they made it illegal for parents to be able to discipline their children. So then now we have children being raised by parents who were never disciplined, or we have children being raised by parents those parents' right to discipline was revoked. You see, and discipline is the ability to do what you know you need to get done, whether you feel like it or not. So happiness is the joy that comes to those who painstakingly design their lives and live them with artistry, with artistry. Think about an artist. See, happiness is a study. Artistry is whatever we decide. It's turning our imagination, turning our ideas to physical things. Right? It doesn't really matter. Artistry is no limits. Think about how all the different types of artists there are. And think about this, that you are the performing artist and the art itself. And so is your life. So it is within your right. It is your birthright to design it how you want it, regardless of the setup. The setup is just to give you a starting point. But you don't have to end where you start. If you're born poor, it's not your fault. But if you die poor, that's your fault. Especially in America. Happiness is the skill of reacting to the offerings of life by perception and by enjoyment. Happiness is the skill of reacting to the offerings in life by perception and by enjoyment. By perception and by enjoyment, because all things exist now. It's like the same wind blows on us all. The difference is the set of the sail. If you imagine, so some people's got their sail up, but they're not guiding and directing the sail. They just have the sail up, the wind's guiding and directing it. Some people are deliberate with the sail, and they know exactly what direction that they're headed, and they're using the wind, and they're using what's available to get to exactly where they need to go. And then some people are just sitting in a boat without even a sail. They're like, what is this thing? What is this cloth thing? I don't even know what this is. Matter of fact, I never even looked at it. Oh shit, I didn't even know this was there. What is this? They don't even know it's there. They're not even thinking about a sail. They're just like, wherever the wind goes, going with the flow. This is what we were saying the other day. So it's not what happens to us, because what happens to us happens to everybody. That's why I know y'all heard Murphy's Law. If y'all haven't, it's this dude named Murphy. He had these laws, and one of them was anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Damn, it's like that came out way before you and I was born, before our parents was born, before their parents was born. So that has to be the setup. I'm not saying that Murphy was the greatest motivational speaker. I'm not saying he was a good positive speaker of the day, but he said that Murphy has these laws. He said anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So that happens to everyone. So what the difference is what we do about it. We heard the stories. I've been one of the stories. You feel me? We could trade stories all day. But then I realized that if I keep talking about my past, then that's the spell I'm staying in, and that's where I'm about to stay. That's where I'm recreating more of those types of experiences. If I'm going to continue to operate and act on my my memory, but I get more joy and fulfillment about acting and operating from imagination and the possibilities, the limitless possibilities that are before me and that are right now in the right now moment. Like I said, happiness is the skill of reacting to the offerings of life by perception and by enjoyment. So, like, for example, if you do sales, I used to do outside sales. I used to run and teach people to do outside sales, run offices and stuff like that. And the guy wakes up, it's pouring down, raining. He's like, oh, man, what horrible weather. I'm about to just get into bed. With weather like this, they can't expect people to go out and make sales. Weather like this, he presses the snooze button and gets back in the bed. Same day, same weather, same company, same leads. The other guy wakes up, he's like, oh damn, this is pouring down rain, and that's crazy. What wonderful weather to go make sales. He said, with weather like this, most everybody will be home. Right? Especially the salesman. Right? And so we see right there in that example how the same exact situation can affect people can affect people differently by their perception and the skill of offering to the of reacting to the happenings of life. It's achieved by both giving, receiving, reaping, and sowing. Happiness is being able to feast on the harmony as well or happiness is being able to feast on harmony as well as food, ideas as well as bread. So ideas and feasting on ideas and food. The types of food that is going to nourish our bodies, give us more life, and bring us closer to, or just give us whatever energy that we need to go to the next day. That's why I said, give us this day our daily bread. You feel me? Because beyond that, like, everything will take care of itself. Like, you could have a whole bunch of food stored up and you think, oh yeah, I'm good for a year, and then boom, a drone hits it, and then all of it's gone. So you must understand that daily bread, like, you know, it's like, yeah, it's cool to be prepared, right? Because if Murphy's Law is going to happen to us anyway, most we could do is just be prepared for it. Most we can do is get stronger, wiser, better to deal with the challenges and become solution providers, right? Something happens, people come to me, I'm trying to be a no problem type of person. People come to me all the time with their problems because they always know I'm like, no problem, that's no problem. This is the solution. I don't have the solution now. I know how to read books. I know how to acquire information. I know how to make things simple. No problem. What's happening? Oh, no problem. These are the type of people that we want to hang around with. These are the type of people that we want to become. Oh, it's a problem? No problem. That's no problem. Just have to change how we look at it. Because it's like, after we decide with our philosophy what we think about it, and then we decide what it means, which is how it makes us feel, and then we decide what we're going to do about it. That's what we do with every happening. Sometimes all that happens in one moment and at an instant. And with major decisions, we forget that process of dealing with happenings. Because it already happened, so decide what we're going to think about it. How does that make us feel, and what does that mean to us? And then what are we going to do about it? Happiness comes to those who deliberately expand their horizons and experiences. Happiness comes to those who deliberately expand their horizons and experiences. Not just happening, but you deliberately. Happiness comes to those who are deliberate about expanding their horizons and experiences. That means they're understanding that when they're putting themselves deliberately in an uncomfortable situation, which means not going the path of least resistance in order to gain. It's like the principle of willingness. The difference is like successful people. It's like what I study unsuccessful and successful people. I realized that one of the major differences is that successful people just do what unsuccessful people don't like to do. So then that leads you to the question of what is it that unsuccessful people don't like to do? Right? That's a logical question. And then the answer is the same exact things that successful people don't like to do. They just do them anyway because they know the results, and they rather experience the fulfillment on the end. They know the benefits. They're willing to do what most people aren't willing to do now, to have what other people won't have forever. So that's the biggest difference between successful and unsuccessful people, right? Successful people do what unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. What unsuccessful people don't like to do, which is what the brain doesn't like to do. But successful people realize that they could affirm and deny whatever comes to their brain and use it for their own good and for their own destiny. So that's why I carry this in my pocket. I started carrying these in my pocket where I used to when I was back in the day, and then I lost it, or I lost one, and I never did it again. But this is just constant reminders. You can read it right here. This denial, right? When my lowest self, because every time I want to expand and do something that I never did before, here comes memory. Here comes my lowest self. Nigga, please. Yeah, right. It's never going to happen. Right? And it's like, damn, we got to be with that civil war within ourselves before we could even verbalize it. So this is just a list of denials. It's like, there's no evil. There is no evil. There is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence anywhere. Pain, sickness, poverty, and old age, and death cannot master me, for they are not real. There is nothing in all the universe for me to fear, for greater is what's in me than what's in the world. It is not true. I am not afraid. I am perfect love and can know no fear. No one, nothing in all the universe can hurt me. I am God in manifestation. All love, all wisdom, all life, all joy, all health, and all power. Right? That's on one side. And on the other side, just says, I'm so happy and grateful now that I earn enough money to buy what I want to have and help who I want to help. I and my goals are one. Right? So anytime my mind go crazy, I got another one of these that's got my specific goals and aims on it. But I just remind myself, hey, listen, I'll put myself, hey, I'm so happy and grateful now that I earn enough money to have all I want to have and help all I want to help. This is what I believe. This is what I choose to believe, right? And this is what I get. So, we about to finish up with this. So it says, happiness comes to those who deliberately expand their horizons and experiences. It resides in the houses of those people who have the ability to handle disappointment without losing their sense of well-being. It comes to those who are in control of both their circumstances and their emotions. Right? So I've heard one time they said success is being able to bounce from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Happiness is also the freedom from the negative children happiness is also freedom from the negative children of fear, such as worry, low self-esteem, envy, greed, resentment, prejudice, and hatred. Happiness is the freedom from the negative children of fear, right? Because all of our thoughts and decisions are going to come from fear or love, period. You can't serve two masters. When biblical literature says that, it's because your mind can't think two thoughts at the same time. Just like you can't breathe two breaths at the same time. Just like you can't take two steps at the same time. Just like your heartbeat can't beat twice at the same time. No matter how fast it beats, it's still one beat then another. It's one breath then another. One blink then another. One thought then another. Happiness is the freedom from the negative children of fear, such as worry, low self-esteem, envy, greed, resentment, prejudice, and hatred. Those who experience happiness often have a grasp on and awareness of the tremendously positive power of life and love. But happiness is more than a general feeling. It is a method of feeling. Happiness is a method of feeling that organizes feelings. Happiness is a method of thinking that organizes feelings, activities, and lifestyle. That's a good one for your notes. Happiness is a method of thinking that organizes feelings, activities, and lifestyle. In other words, it's a way of interpreting the world and its events. Happiness is a skill. It's a study. If you want to be happy, you have to study happiness. People have did life before you. The wisdom of the world is available in what we call books, audio books, and even a YouTube university. If you're really willing, right? You could say, oh, I don't like to read, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's endless lectures, endless audio books, endless information on YouTube that you could just press play. And it doesn't even matter if you're consciously paying attention to it, because as long as it's 20 decibels below hearing level, your subconscious heard it and picked it up. And this is what you call seed planting. This is what you call reaping. Are you willing to at least 30 minutes a day to investigate in strategies, processes and tactics, ideas and concepts to increase the quality of your life? This is simple discipline repeated daily, which will lead to success. You neglect that and continue to few errors in your current judgment. Do that for a month, 9 months, a year, 10 years. It's a disaster. Happiness is having values in balance. It's contentment. Happiness is contentment with daily tasks, including those unpleasant chores from which a few of us are free. Happiness is a life well lived and filled with people of substance. Happiness is a wide variety of experiences and memories that become priceless forms of currency to spend and invest. Happiness is activity with purpose. Happiness is love in practice. Happiness is both a grasp of the obvious and the awe of the mysterious. Happiness is both the grasp of the obvious and the awe of experience, or of mysterious. Yet most of us think happiness as something either lost in the past or a peak to be arrived at in some distant future. Most of us think happiness as something either lost in the past or a peak to be arrived at in the distant future. I'll be happy as soon as ... I'm gonna pause right here. Listen, self-love, right? About, yo, I love myself when this happens, or when I get a mate, or someone who loves me. Women say all the time, I love myself, or I'll be happy when I lose this weight. I'll be happy when I get, a husband. I'll be happy when blah, blah, blah. Men, or even myself, yo, I'll be happy when, I'm a multimillionaire. I got 10, 6 figures in my bank account. I'll be happy when this. I'll be happy when I finally get this pack, or I'll be happy when whatever. But when we do that, then we must understand that we're giving all of our power away, and we're denying our existence right now. We're skipping past breath being life. Without breath, there's no life. You wouldn't even be aware of anything to even complain about or be grateful of. So you're going to skip past breath to not vocalize the things that you do want, but to strengthen the invisible chains that in the program and the spells that you're already acting under by skipping past breath. And because if you pause that breath before you spoke, then you were speaking from a place of gratitude. I just learned this. I would skip past breath to complain about something, or trying to say something's not right, or try and fix something. And someone else who's breathing, if they the same breath that they breathing, I'm breathing, breath. And from that point, we're just going to be something grateful and constructive, even if it is accountability. Few understand that happiness can only be experienced in the now, just like breath. And yes, like all good things, happiness is often elusive, but I promise it's not impossible to capture. So how does one lapture onto the bluebird of happiness? By understanding and applying how does one latch onto the bluebird of happiness? By understanding and applying a concept which is rarely associated with happiness. Discipline. Right? So that we just read, that was Leaders of Readers, 7 Strategies of Wealth and Happiness. This was episode 70 or 71, matter of fact, episode 71 of Take Charge of Your Life. Take charge of your mind. Matter of fact, you got any constructive
just join the challenge, man. We got to be examples to the people coming up behind us of the change that we want to see. And most definitely, the education system is failing in certain areas. So let's pick up and not just complain, but, be the change that we want to see. Be the real resource.
And then, can you talk about just real quick, just once they to make that decision and that choice to be the real resource in the process, that as long as they're, can you talk about that process and being happy and understanding and enjoying and loving the process? Because depending on what solution, what problem they're trying to solve, or what solution they're offering, is going to determine how big a challenge it is, and it might be overwhelming to some people.
Oh yeah, well, it's it's always good to break it down into a realistic plan, or stepping stones, as is easier for us to understand. Break it down into stepping stones on how you're going to attack it. So, you kind of figure out what issue you want to address, what area that you can really be effective in. It may be something that you're good at, maybe something that you already have information about, but just start with what you got to work with. And then you build your momentum from there. From there, you'll start attracting, just because you're being active, you'll start attracting different types of results. And the results from there is just going to start growing and growing and growing. And eventually, you'll get closer to the thing that's going to really equate to the joy and happiness that you were speaking of. But you'll realize at that moment, depending where your mind is at, what level you're on, the process is what really sparks the joy. The work, the action rather, puts the result out there. But actually thinking about what the work consisted of, what type of work had to be put in, and getting gratitude out of that from you being the active person and the resource putting that work in. That's what brings you to gratitude. That's
right.
what, when people disrespect or don't give you credit, that's what we get most offended about. When we put the actual work in and we are embracing the journey that gives us a result, and that gets tainted or diluted or disrespected, then that's when our joy and our happiness gets tampered with. So that's the importance of breaking down how you want to affect something, and then really embracing the journey of taking each step and coming with it, each step the strong way.
Right. And yeah, great words. And I just wanted to add to that, if you truly believe in what you're doing and where you're going, then each step is the all. We have to remove a lot of the separation between the goal and us in the process, because
if you cheat the process, you're not going, whatever goal you arrive at is not going to be what you set out to get. And that's the thing. The more disciplined you are in staying focused on the plan that you set out, the closer the results will be to what you planned for. So that's why we can't cheat the process, because when we do, that's when we typically end up at a finish line, but it's not in a position, or it's not the trophy that we lined ourselves up for.
Right, exactly. Like, for example, if we just had a garden, we want to plant a whole bunch of apple trees, right? And then so we go and we plant all these apple seeds, then we run out of apple seeds. So instead of going to get going and figuring out how to get more apple seeds, or buying them, or we it's like, oh damn, here's a whole bunch of tomato seeds, right? And we just start throwing those down too. And we're still hard working, diligently planting. And then, but harvest time come, we're like, damn, we wanted a garden full of apple trees. Where these tomatoes come from? We got to realize that because we cheated the process, our result,
it varied.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be from where we want it. So that's the message today. Realize that your happiness is in your control. You control your smiles and tears, and it's your level of discipline and willingness and commitment to stay on task after you decided, after you start, right? And your level of belief and faith in what you're doing is the only thing that's gonna, keep you strong. So y'all stay grateful and preserve the essence. Peace.